Now the topic is, of course, mind-boggling. I don't know how your imagination works, but I can simply not imagine a city of 80 million. I mean, that is the whole of Germany, 10 times Switzerland in one city. For the moment, I don't know, Vincent, you from UN Habitat, that's your profession to imagine that, but for me, it is almost impossible. But this is the challenge, because these forecasts are, of course, forecasts, but I think they are quite real, because the most reliable forecasts are based on demographics. And the people are already born, who are the fathers. We don't know yet the grandchildren, how they will look like and behave. But I think, even though it's maybe not 88 million as forecasted, we have to cope with huge numbers very, very fast, as Daniel has shown. So we still don't have Juliet. Okay. So we have another 15 minutes almost to discuss these issues. And I would like to start with Vincent from UN Habitat and ask you, how do you and UN Habitat see these trends? And especially because you live now in Nairobi, I think, there were some recent unrests I read in the newspaper that the younger generation really wants to change something and wants perspective, jobs. And as every catastrophic situation is also an opportunity, do you see also an opportunity to create jobs, to create growth and perspectives for the younger generation? Do you know also how the younger leaders that are emerging see this? Please, Vincent.
Thank you very much for that question. And I just also wanted to thank Daniel for the great job that we have been doing in Kigali, in the Great Lake region. And of course, on behalf of UN Habitat, and also thank the organizer for inviting us to this very important discussion. First of all, I think that the data that are used to do the projection are based on the fact that there is a rapid urbanization, first of all, rapid population growth. That is 3.5%. Those are the data that they use to just assume that from today to the end of the year, of the century, we'll just continue to that grow without any interruption. And then at the same time, we are also using the same data, the data of the rapid urbanization growth, that is 4% annually, urbanization growth in Africa, which will bring you to that sort of projection that Daniel showed to the picture. I personally believe that we are not going to reach those levels, because what is happening today in the global south, we are seeing some economic improvement. And you will also agree with me that whenever your economic condition improve, you also reduce the number of children. So, which is the case that happened in Europe, let's say 20, 40 years back. In the African, we believe that at a certain point, we'll also start seeing a sort of the slowdown in the growing of cities. There is also another element which also need to be taken into consideration. This figure concentrates on big cities. But what UN Habitat, together with partner, has been advocating for the last, let's say, last 5 years, is the development of secondary town, so that you don't allowed people to just go to the bigger city. Of course, people move to bigger city in search of better living conditions. So if you can decentralize economic development, you end up now having secondary town that develops, and therefore we have those sort of equally distributed growth. But what is most important, which also mentioned in the presentation of Daniel, it's the fact that most of those houses are low-density houses, single-family home, like what we will see here in the rural area. And the work that was done in Kigali, which I commend it very much, is the fact that it is concentrating on high density, compactness. In fact, what we presented yesterday is that if we want to, for a city to be better developed, you need to densify, you need to be compact. And in doing so, you create jobs, you give opportunity to the youth. Of recent, we have the youth in Nairobi. It's not just in Nairobi, all over Africa, they are looking for job opportunity because the education system is not developed to create jobs for the youth. So you end up having graduate students which do not have any job. And therefore, they were actually asking the government, we need jobs. And what is happening is that the university, like what happened in Kigali, if this type of training can be taken into the academia, into the university, I'm sure in future we'll have more and more activity like this being replicated in other African cities. Because in Nairobi, the Gen Z, the generation, those who were born after, I think, 1996, we're actually saying that we are sitting at home with a degree from the university. There is no job. But at the same time, Nairobi needs homes, they need housing, they need services, they need hospital, they are not medical doctor. When they are building their infrastructure, they need to import. I mean, the foreigners that are building the infrastructure also come to build the infrastructure for them. So there are not indigenous work that can stimulate, that can also give them some income. And that is what they were rioting. Now, coming to how the youth are looking into it, there is a lot of debate. These youth are actually saying that we should consume what we are producing. We should be part of the development. Government has to take us into consideration when they are designing the development. And I believe that a program like this, because this is the solution for the housing crisis that we have in Africa. And if you allow me, I will just tell you that today, as I'm sitting here talking, there is 160 million housing deficit, housing unit deficit in sub-Saharan Africa, because we have bigger cities. In the city like Nairobi, 60% of the population are living in informal settlement. And Nairobi has 4 to 5 million inhabitants. If 60%, that means 3 million are living in informal settlement. So they require adequate houses. So the university should be designed to respond for mass housing, train them to build, to design mass housing. But the other positive note, which I can also add, because I also happened to be a lecturer at the University of Nairobi some time back, is that there is more and more interest in promoting green buildings. They are actually looking for low carbon building design. The building you saw, which we, thanks to Daniel, we built it within the complex of Nairobi. We are having a lot of university students coming to study, and there are also some that are also doing their research on it. And there are also other local governments that are actually asking how it will be possible to transfer that technology from Kigali to the Kenyan context. So there is a hope. And the good news is the fact that this technology, it was developed looking at the whole entire value chain, which is different from other technology that we were used to, like the cement industry. The industry just come there, produce cement, and go. But with this one, from the searching of the raw material, creating job along the entire value chain, the production, the design of the building, and therefore I believe that it's really a solution to both the housing crisis, the job crisis, and also climate change, because actually all these things are interlinked. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. So there is, although it's a huge challenge where we all agree, there is also some hope, because this transformation could also create jobs. So I would like to introduce Andrea, who is from the industry, and you work in Africa with building brick factories. Do you see a big opportunity there in the coming years to industrialize the housing and construction sector in Africa?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I'm Andrea Saglietti. I'm representing Rieter Morando. It's the technology supplier for plants producing bricks and roofing tiles. Maybe Vincent heard about KCP in Nairobi. And we install many plants all around the world, also in Africa, and it's in Kigali. I came across, had the pleasure to meet Daniel there with Skat. We always seen Africa and the emerging countries as a big opportunity in terms of business, of course, because we are a technology supplier and we like to offer a tool, a solution, let's say, for the local market. In Europe, you know very well, it's a well-established business, the heavy clay, the bricks are products often till the Middle Age. If you come to Italy, you can see a lot of construction buildings still there, built during the Roman Empire. So it's a product, a natural product, well known since ever, always used everywhere in the world. So even in Africa. And there's a long tradition in the sub-Saharan area. I started there in Congo, then in Eastern Africa, Western Africa. And as I said before, I met Daniel in Kigali, where we have established right now a big plant, high-tech plant with Ruliba in Rwanda. So the opportunity is there, always been there. Of course, there are many challenges. And one could be the fact that we need an environment to play in. What we discussed also yesterday with Daniel, the importance of Skat or the academic studies is that you can bring some knowledge, you can bring some advice to the governments there to implement such kind of environment. Otherwise, all the players around cannot fit. And even if there are ideas, willingness, or everyone is driven by something, a technological supplier, also by profit as well. But if you don't have this environment, you cannot put your seed, you cannot give your support to this environment, to these local markets. The fact that there are opportunities like mega cities coming have been seen since years. And Rieter Morando started already in the 70s installing some plants. And here you have the first challenge. Why many plants are not still there? They've been closed, disrupted. Why? Because you need also the knowledge, the know-how, but you have a plan to offer the urban developers a solution, like Daniel mentioned before, a solution to use these products. So in this moment, you need everything, maybe from glass to wood to cement to heavy clay products. But you need to have this kind of environment. It's like, we said yesterday, a Formula One team. So you can have a good driver, you can have a good car, a good engineers, a good sponsor, but everything should work perfectly, okay? And then you can also try to win, maybe some races first, and then maybe a championship. We are in a situation like this, where we need to have a thinker, long-term thinkers that could help, because you need the financing first for the technological supplier, for the entrepreneurs there. You need engineers there to develop the project. You have to have technological suppliers that bring solution not just to sell and run. And then, of course, you need also a financial package for the final users. The ones have to buy a house there, over there. So there are opportunities, but I can see after 10 years a lot of challenges, of course, as well.
So to unfold this development, there are many things that need to be in place at the same time.
At the same time.
And now we will also come to the questions of the environment, because, of course, a fantastic opportunity for economic growth, but how can we do this sustainably? And I hear that Kevin has to leave soon, so I would address to Kevin a question about especially the African perspective about recycling. I think you have emphasized that in Africa nothing goes to waste, and that this is also a source for construction that you can use in a special African perspective, recycled building materials. But just to provoke you a little bit, if you allow, I mean, mathematically, in our cities, we have a lot of cement, concrete that we can destroy and recycle. But if the cities are not yet built, how does recycling work in Africa? Please, Kevin from South Africa.
Thank you very much. Just to respond to your provocation, actually, the cities are kind of already existing. They're already there. And like Europe, we actually are facing the challenge of these cities being built out of concrete, as you mentioned, out of cement products, gypsum boards, etc., etc. Whereas the densification, perhaps the level of densification has not arrived in Europe, I think in Africa, we have the opportunity to kind of see what's coming ahead of that curve and be able to think using the opportunity of time to find solutions on how to rethink architecture. And the work that I do actually is quite explorative. It's quite experimental. What we've been doing is we've been proposing alternatives in architecture of reusing these materials, recycling concrete, working with waste. And waste is construction demolition waste, essentially, primarily being the waste that we're looking at. But we've not even limited ourselves to that. We've looked at motor car industry waste and waste from the households, just because obviously residences form a large part of urban spaces. So I think with the opportunity that comes out of there, what we've ended up doing is, I guess, frog leaping and looking at these materials in new ways, different ways, creative ways. And in fact, our last project in Cape Town, in the waterfront there, is we targeted 98% recycled, we're falling at 95% recycled, roughly, as a prototype for other cities, for other precincts to actually take up recycling seriously and see the value of waste, construction demolition waste and other waste. And what I mean by that is what that does is essentially it by engaging there's almost like a gap between policy in terms of when we talk about recycling and engaging cities and engaging let me say society abroad and versus engaging the built professions, and I'm now referring to the professional consultants. And that gap there is kind of where the work that I've been doing has been falling in, because eventually the architects and the professional consultant team are the ones who realize these policies or realize this uptake. And if they're still using business as usual, traditional architecture to realize buildings, then they will fall back to the conventional catalogs. Normal material, standard brick, concrete, etc. I think the gap and opportunity has actually been because of where we are in Africa and being able to actually rethink, frog leap in using as much construction waste as possible and then put that in cities. And we've been prototyping and playing with that to showcase possibility. Obviously, the social economic impact of that is you can imagine if you are going full on into recycling, you would need centers for where buildings are demolished and, those building components are recycled. You need to employ the youth, as you had with my previous speaker. It would create job opportunities. It would create businesses in the middle tier where these skill sets are created, job opportunities to demolishing buildings, because currently buildings are basically just wrecked. The construction wrecking ball just goes through the building, and there's not so much uptake and rethinking on how to use these materials. But I think the opportunity to conclude, the opportunity in Africa has been actually, in a way, being ahead of that curve. And then being able to rethink how to use these materials and then put that back into architecture.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I have seen a small film where you helped a rag picker to modernize. He was using old kind of wooden mobile unit to collect scrap, and you designed him a tricycle, and he became an expert for recycling. So I think that is a marvelous example how you can create opportunities for these people. And I especially remember how you said he knows exactly when he collects all this waste, for what purpose it is, and he is an expert and advisor for recycling. So we hope that example will have a lot of success and will be multiplied in Africa.
For sure.
Now, no matter, we need to recycle whatever is possible, but we also need huge amounts of new building materials. And here comes in Nils. I worked with EPFL for the last 10 years to develop low-carbon cement. And you have just created a new center, the Center for Worldwide Sustainable Construction. And we are glad to have you here. So can you tell us a little bit what this center aims at and how you want to go ahead and give us maybe some examples? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Urs. So the Center for Worldwide Sustainable Construction is very young. We are 1.5 years old. We are very much a startup at this point, but we are motivated by the fact that 40% of global emissions come from the built environment. So we really believe that the built environment can lead this transformation, especially also because it can work as a foundation to make sustainability accessible for everybody. We are mainly doing this through research and education. So we are, for example, launching now an extension school in spring next year, which will educate people where we see where it's needed the most, where construction will happen, the discussions we've been having today, Africa and India. So we can really train the experts we need on the ground from policy, you know, whether you're a mayor, whether you're an engineer or a student, we can create the knowledge foundation for that. And secondly, we of course also work with, you know, we have, as you've already mentioned, LC3, the cement project that predates us. That is one of the reasons we exist today. But we also have GBDI, the Global Building Data Initiative, where we are trying to make accessible to everyone, you know, carbon in buildings, so, the visualization of carbon in buildings, so we can make better decisions on how to design. Because our approach is implement now, because once this growth is happening anyways, if we get behind the curve, the emissions have happened and we are too late. So we want to implement now, and that's where I believe I could link to LC3. The low carbon cement that is a calcined clay and limestone cement that we have developed at EPFL in partnership with a Cuban university, an Indian and an African university. And the LC3 cuts out clinker from cement production, which allows us to save up to 40% of emissions. That makes it a very deployable and a very sustainable material, because already by mass today, concrete is by far the most used material in the world. So if we can make it 40% better, we actually have a material that is, because it's limestone and clay, available almost everywhere in the world, except for maybe Scandinavia, where we have enough wood, luckily. But it's something that, and we're currently working on this, we are transforming African cement plants into LC3 plants. For example, the newest LC3 plant just opened in Ghana. Ghana is now world leader in LC3 production. So this is not a story that's happening somewhere in the global north and then is being transferred. No, it's actually the pioneering work happened in Colombia with new highway infrastructure built in LC3. Ghana just invested another 100 million into an even bigger plant that's coming online somewhere next year. You know, our push is really we try to have as much impact in this part as we can, because if we can decarbonize concrete, it's easy to do basically, because we need almost no change aside from adding calciners to make this change happen. It's a very small change. The supply chains, whether formal or informal sector, doesn't change. And that's why we're very interested in this topic. And today, with the current capacity installed, we are offsetting 10 million tons of CO2 per year, which is a quarter of Swiss annual emissions. And we are a first world country that knows how to make CO2, so that's a lot. And we have the capacity to go 40 times that. So that's what we're working towards in terms of material today.
How many LC3 plants are already in Africa emerging?
I do not have a concrete number because I'm not working specifically on that project. But there is a new one opening in Oman later this year. I'm going to the opening there in December. There's a second one coming on in Ghana. We have roadmaps for decarbonization in 5 African countries that also create a legal framework to allow this type of usage, adaptation of standards, etc., etc. But we're talking around 5 countries in Africa at the moment. But we are also agile because situations change, priorities change, governments change. So that's how we have to work.
Can I come back to Daniel first? I think what we need is scale, but we also need a qualitative shift because we need more density, but it's unimaginable. I think, Vincent, you are also agreeing to that. Africa will not have skyscrapers like in Manhattan very soon. So it's a gradual densification, maybe with mid 2-3 level buildings. Can you tell us a little bit more about this process?
Yes. Well, we analyzed the bottlenecks of these supply chains quite carefully in a couple of African cities now. And it's true right now, one of the big bottlenecks, if we want to transform this, let's say 80% of, or this is actually the mainstream part of these African cities, we have to find ways that the existing builders can start learning, building maybe 2 floors, 3 floors, 5 floors in a couple of years in order to gain space for green areas, for roads that actually go through the neighborhoods and so on. So this is the first step. So that's why the industry needs to provide load-bearing material. Concrete is dangerous, we have seen it. It's a real big problem in not only in Africa, but specifically in Africa. So having concrete and load-bearing bricks is a solution that is actually quite good. So even if the concrete fails at one corner, we have still load-bearing walls, and I think this is providing lots of comfort also to the investors, to the banks. They would consider such buildings also as a collateral for getting a business credit and so on, which is very important. So providing a solution for that is easy to build for local contractors, I think is the first bottleneck we have to address. Afterwards, of course, the industry. I mean, as Andrea said it, we worked a lot on the local entrepreneurs, but they also need the same environment as you said. So we need workshops that are able to maintain machines, to produce spare parts, we need to have the material suppliers, we need to have a whole set of services that are actually key that an industry can grow, particularly if it's a green industry. And I think here, governments become more and more aware of that. When I have this exchange with ministries and so on, they are aware that if they want to keep up with the fast urban expansion, that they have actually to address the problem now. They cannot just focus on a little new residential area or on a few towers. But it is a process that is, I think it's still too slow, significantly too slow. But I hope that the awareness will grow also thanks to UN Habitat, who has a really rich dialogue with all these authorities.
If I may add, since Kevin was with us from South Africa, in South Africa, also the producers, the bricks producers, they create an association because, of course, there's long traditions, and they can talk directly to government, to architects, to create this environment, can help a lot. So in the moment, the small producers we have in sub-Saharan countries can grow, can access to a technology, they can surely become more and more, let's say, louder in terms of voice, and they can take advantage of talking to architect engineers and the government itself to go forward and get this environment for sure.
I hear that Juliet has joined us. Can we invite her in?
Oh, excellent.
Hello, Juliet, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can we see you, or is that too much?
No, it's not too much.
Can
you see me now?
Yes, Juliet, we are very much happy that you are joining us, because I started the discussion with an admission that I simply cannot imagine a city of 80 million, and even not the city of 25 million, but you are from Nigeria, and how do you imagine the city of Lagos when your grandchildren will live there?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer, but in theory, I want a city that is resilient and a city that is not only resilient, inclusive, and a city that is sustainable. And a city, what I mean by inclusive, a city that will accommodate all classes of people, low, income, and medium. Not a city that will send some classes of the citizens to the periphery while some stay in the city center. So I think the location should be a choice, not the policy or rental forcing a citizen to their location, but it should be a case of personal decision.
But just to imagine, do you see Lagos as like a Chinese town with a lot of skyscrapers, or how do you see that?
Yeah, the issue of Lagos coming with skyscrapers is on the increase. You know, it's coming up. There's a lot of skyscrapers coming, all like the Eco Atlantic that was recovered from the sea, those skyscrapers. And also the Tango projects, those skyscrapers. A lot of skyscrapers coming up in Lagos. But the most unfortunate thing is, considering the population of Lagos, and these skyscrapers can accommodate all aspects of the population, because we need a shift in policy, because presently housing development is mainly in the private sector, and the private sector is profit-oriented. As a result, this type of housing development does not favor everybody. So it makes everybody, a majority of the citizens, to be engaged in renting rather than ownership. And also, it's not affordable to at least medium classes of the income earners. Mainly, they are affordable to high class of the people, thereby creating more informal settlements and creating more uninclusive cities. So I want a city where the policy is working, that the housing development, whether skyscraper, which is even more when we are thinking of inclusion, because skyscrapers maximize the use of land. Land is a product that is in a part of a housing value chain that is not increased. You cannot increase. You can increase finance, you can increase capital and other aspects in the value chain, but land, which is the key, cannot be increased. So the main thing we should target our plan and policy is, how do we maximize the use of land in the city? Because land in the city is costly and is very minimal. So skyscrapers, I believe, is the only key that will help us to maximize the use of land in a city like Lagos. But actually, how do we do it? Government partnership is okay, but government-public partnership, it's okay. But we need more of government participation, like the case in Egypt and also the case in Ethiopia, so that the housing will be affordable to the lower classes of the city inhabitants. Thank you.
So to make the circle square, we have now also this affordability issue, and this makes everything even more complicated. But I think, as we have seen from our speakers already, there are some possibilities to combine affordability, environmental sustainability, and growth, but it is challenging. Now, at this stage, are there any questions from the audience to some of the speakers, please?
Actually, I have one question. When I saw this this illustration at the beginning, where I think it was Lagos or other cities, or was it, I think, this corridor, right? That was like thousands of kilometers long. I checked on Google Maps, so it's spanning actually, you see the borders of several countries actually, right? And even it's 2 time zones, I think. And it takes 27 hours apparently to drive through it.
More than that.
Without
I did it myself.
Without traffic jam, I guess. So the question is like, you talked a lot about local kind of entrepreneurship and organization, but this will also require coordination between countries. Do you see this happening? I think there's the African Union trying to integrate more and more. How, is it also an opportunity for more political collaboration and integration in the regional level? Is this happening? And, how is this happening?
I would like to address this to Vincent. You are the institution for coordination of this program. So can you?
No, thank you very much for that question. In fact, it is called the Ibadan and Ibadan to Abidjan Corridor. And they are all in the ECOWAS, that is West African Economic Group, which they already, at the moment, they have sort of a power line that's moved from one country, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. So they already have the power pool, the West African power pool. And in fact, I mentioned earlier on that cities, today we are promoting secondary town, the development of secondary towns so that we can also have decentralization of some activity like the industry. At the moment, people are moving to cities because that is where they have the school, the hospital, all the basic services are concentrated in the cities, and that is also where they have energy. But today, with the development, the advanced development of renewable energy, which is making now energy decentralized, so like solar system, hydropower, wind system, you are actually able to provide those services to these secondary towns. So it's something that is possible. But of course, I don't exclude the fact that the population is growing rapidly. So they will have to come together, and they are already working together as a block so that they can try to see some sort of coordination. And again, looking at the housing value chain, if there is a factory, 2 or 3 factories along the road, because it's also a business, that corridor is also a big business. If people move all the way from Senegal to Lagos, because Lagos is a major business trading center, to buy goods and then carrying it with lorries traveling along the corridor. So just imagine having factories along the corridor, even cement factory. It will be easier to transform that cement from one place to another place. So I invite you also, this idea of having this low carbon cement factory in Ghana, you will end up realizing that this is also easy to sell it in Bamako, in Mali, because they all have a corridor and it's a very, very traffic-oriented corridor. So there is already a group and it is feasible. What is lacking are actually investment, the industry. And what is also lacking, also the enabling environment, which is also very important.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, maybe just a little thing. Okay, we entered in this corridor area in the middle in Togo, but of course looking at what's happening left and right. And what I was told also during, I think, the World Urban Forum, there was a panel on these corridors. It's basically run by the transport ministries. So what they are focusing on right now is a highway that goes from east to west, and basically coordinates already this, which is not so easy. But they expressed a lack of linking between the transport issues and actually the urban development these transport triggers. So it seems to be still at an early stage now, the coordination at the government level, what urban development is concerned. On transport, it's okay. I think on energy, obviously, as well. And then there is, of course, a lot of connections between the private sectors. I mean, the Beninois, they know exactly what's happening in Togo and so on, and there is cross-border relation between Ghana also and Togo. There's a language barrier, which makes it a bit more difficult, but I think it goes, the whole sub-area is, of course,
but they use the same
strongly
passport.
connected. Yeah.
So communication is also easy. I mean,
yeah, although the border, I traveled twice through this area with public transport, and it's true. It takes much longer than 27 hours. It's closer to 40 hours because of all these the border crossings that are quite painful sometimes.
I read one very impressive story that Dangote Cement and also Heidelberg Cement, when they invest in cement plants, they buy at the same time 1,000 trucks to transport it, and they drive in convoy to have the customs clearance in Benin and Togo made more efficiently. So also the private sector seems to get organized. Another question?
Thank you. I'm sorry I arrived slightly late, but I do have a question. My experience is in the country of Guinea. I know Conakry and I know the bauxite industry quite well there. And I was working with UNDP there, and one of the big questions was to compare the sources of primary GDP to the sources of primary employment across population by percentage. And the greatest labor capacity was in farming and in fisheries, neither of which were really possible anymore in the urban areas, mostly because of shipping and natural resources extraction. I'm curious, first of all, thinking about housing. What capacity is there already in rural areas for supply chain for housing? And is there a way in which resource distribution could make it more viable, either through rural electrification or through the reinforcement of living standards to, at some point, what happened in the US, of course, was when people left rural communities, big ag moved in, right? That's another negative consequence. I'm curious from your perspective, the focus here is urbanization, but is there a way in which the tools of urbanization can be used to enhance the viability of rural settlement?
So a rural-urban question, to whom do you want to address the question? Okay.
I think I can start, but also my sister there will also add. The first thing, very interesting question. What I have to say is we should also have in mind the issue that the purchasing power of the community is very low. Because at the moment we are looking at extractive economy, whereby most African countries are selling raw material. They are not value addition. Ghana is the only country that's refused to sell cocoa as cocoa beans, and now inviting countries that are producing chocolate, including Switzerland, to go and build factory down there so that you can generate income. You can recruit a lot of people and then generate income so that they can have a better purchasing power, so that they can also actually purchase houses and contribute, because housing is capital intensive. So the moment you start creating this income within the community, they are also able to afford those houses. And this is an effort that is now being put in place so that a country where I come from, Cameroon, they are selling wood. They are not processing the wood down there, and therefore those are opportunity lost. So the issue is that we need to create that income so that we can also lift, giving more purchasing power to the community, and then so that they can afford. But beside that, there are also the group of people that can afford. The middle class, for example, can afford the housing, but it still become very expensive. That's why affordable houses become now a political topic for politicians during the campaign. And start from Abidjan, the president will tell you, I'm going to build, if I'm voted, 200,000 houses will be built In other countries, they will say 1 million, I will build 1 million houses. And most of the time, they face to the reality because they don't have the resources to build those houses. So you can see across all this country, you have big projects on affordable housing, but they are not realizing. Unless you have solutions like Ethiopia, Egypt, where they are asking for property developer to come in, invest in the housing, and then provide 30% of the houses for the social group of the society. So again, in that case, you need to bring in foreign investor to invest to build the houses, sell part of it to the higher income society, and then the remaining one, they put it to the social houses. So that is also what is happening. But ultimately, the solution is what we saw here, creating the whole value chain or the whole supply chain so that everybody is involved in the process, and you minimize also the importation of raw material, of building material, because those are also very expensive.
One of the big advantages of construction and housing is that it is a local industry. You can import iPhones and telephones from China, but you cannot import the houses there. They must be with a local supply chain be made. And this is the big chance and opportunity also that this big challenge provides. I would like to soon close, but give one last sentence to each of you. If you had just one sentence as a recommendation to a mayor of a major mega city or also of a smaller, fast-growing city to give, one sentence, what would you give as advice? Juliet, please. We can't hear you. You are muted.
Sorry. Thank you for the question. Well, if I'm to talk to the mayor, we are, anyway, as an urban planner, my target is, like I said, is policy that will make developers to maximize the use of land in city by introducing high-rise building instead of low occupancy building they normally build in the outskirts of the city. So in this, I believe we can achieve inclusive and resilient cities in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. So I start now from right, Nils.
Well, I'm doing a bit of self-promotion. I would tell this mayor, come, bring your academics, come yourself, bring people who work on the built environment to our extension school that we have built with the help of UNEP and Global ABC. The goal is to train people involved in the built environment to decarbonize. It's free for participants from the Global South. It's supported by participants for the Global North and sponsorship. And the whole idea of this extension school is to be ready on the ground to meet these huge demands for housing of a global population.
Okay. Andrea?
But actually, again, to create this environment, because with clear rules, every player can play fair. And for technological suppliers as well, we can push to create products that could be, I don't know, bearing blocks that could be used for standard buildings. And with standard buildings, the architects, they can create, they can use their imagination, their forward thinking to create the megacities of the future, for sure. Rules.
Daniel?
I would probably propose to find a big table and a big paper in order to sit around the table, the people from these settlements, the builders, the planners, and the investors into building material production, and to find appropriate solutions for the very city or the very metropolitan zone for that.
And finally, Vincent.
Finally, I think I follow what is the trend. The mayor need to create the enabling environment and have a systemic look at the whole issue, whereby putting also some financial incentive for the private sector to come and invest. Because just looking at the number, if you really need to create that place where everybody can come and have the opportunity to produce. Thank you.
So thank you very much. With that, I would like to close this session and thank you for your audience and for your interest. And thank you to all, also those who are joining us from far, Juliet, Kevin, who has already left, and the panelists. Thank you very much.